Hey, John. Okay, waiting until other people join. So we're starting. I had some technical difficulties. I had to change the resolution, so I'm a little late. Sorry. Hey, guys. I just posted the link in the chat, so I'm waiting to see if Tess joins. Oh, Ken. Good. Nice. Okay, well, I'm gonna start now. Okay. So, welcome to this workshop about obviously coloring and shading. This event, yeah, I have tea too. This event is going to be divided into two parts. First part is going to be about it's going to be quite boring because it's going to be about technical terms. I know most of you are probably already familiar with those, but I think it's important to make a little recap of the terms I'm going to be using in the workshop. And in this first part, we're going to talk about the color wheel, color harmony, and how to choose colors for your artwork to end up with a pleasant final piece. And the part 2 is about shading and rendering. So I'm gonna do a demonstration of my work, of how I do it. So again, it's my method. You know, I roll. I show you my method, and you can do whatever you want with this. So I don't think you have questions so far. So yeah, sorry, John. So I'm gonna jump into the nitty-gritty vocabulary, where no one agreed to what is what, but basically that's what I got. Maybe, John, you learned something else, I don't know. But yeah, first thing is hue, the term hue, which basically means, it's another fancy name for color. So you can have various hues like blue, green, red, purple, and all that jazz. I put like not the usual colors you can find on you usually think when you think about colors, but just picked random colors on my color picker here. The second term, which is the most important, I think, when you're talking about shading and rendering, is saturation. It's the intensity or purity of a hue, and it's basically the amount of gray you put into your hue. I know some will argue that it's a value or a tone, but we're gonna see those terms later. I feel like saturation is a different thing. It's really, you take your basic color here and you add gray to it, and you end up with gray, straight up gray. And usually what you do is that you have your if you see in my color picker up here, you have the hue, and then you go down and toward the gray as you pick a more saturated color. Like those is up here. This one is, you can see the little circle in the color picker that moves down and toward the gray. Okay, next term is lightness and darkness, as in tints and shade. So it's the amount of black or the amount of white you put into your hue. So the more white you put, the lighter the color is, the more black you put, the darker your color is. That's pretty simple. So on the left, yes, left of the screen is the tints when you add white, and on the right it's the shades when you add black. And this is where it becomes confusing, because you say you're shading your drawing, but we're gonna see in the final part why it's usually a bad idea to use black to shade your drawing. So here are some tints and shade of this purplish, pinkish burgundy, because of course I cannot choose some real color like blue or green, so I just have to pick something that doesn't really have a name. And next term is value. So value is really useful when you work on your artwork. It can go back to the tints and shades in the way it determines how light and dark your color is, except it's all gray. So it's used to contrast, to create a contrast of value, obviously. And most famous examples of the use of values are in ink washes artwork, or grayscale, or even monotone drawing, when you only want hue and you can work on the value. But the value is when you take your colored artwork and you put it into grayscale, and you can see how dark and light areas are. So really value is only applies only to gray. Next term is tone. I don't have a slide for this one, but tone, I did a lot of research to know what artists mean when they talk about tone, but what I got is really, it's just a pimped up hue. You can add gray, white, or black, shake it, tada, it's a tone. Or so I think. I'm not entirely sure, like I said, because artists are fighting about it, and some of them use liberally use tone, value, shade, and saturation as the same thing, which they aren't. But it's really a confusing talk. Don't focus too much on tone. Focus on hue, saturation, and lightness, darkness, and value when you're working on grayscale. Do you have question? Yeah, we don't know what we're doing. That's true. And creative types are random. And all right. Okay. So let's talk about the color wheel and what is primary, tertiary, secondary colors, whatever. You probably already know about this, but here your color wheel. You have the primary color, which are yellow, blue, and red. Your secondary color, orange, green, and purple. And if you mix your primary color, yada yada, you can you have your secondary color, and if you mix your secondary color with one of the primary color, you have your tertiary color. You all know, I guess, that traditionally accepted primary color are red, blue, and yellow. Those are the basic color setup for digital artists and online publishing. However, printers use cyan, magenta, and yellow, CMYK, K for black, because obviously. Which one is the best? Really, I have no idea. Find what works for you. On digital, it doesn't really matter. Just think of what your file is going to be used for. As in, if you want to publish it online or have it printed, then choose the appropriate setting in your software. But traditionally, I know artists are fighting to know which one is the best between the traditional red, blue, yellow, or the new cyan, magenta, and yellow. Really, I've seen amazing artwork, bright or vibrant artwork done with both methods, so just try and experiment and do your thing. So, as long as color wheel is concerned, you'll see a lot of models and variations around the same theme. Should you bother with the color wheel? Yes, But no, not really. I mean, having it in mind is useful when you pick your colors, so I would encourage you to use it at the beginning. We'll see how to use it later in this workshop. But as you gain experience along the way, you can start trusting your instinct. It's always good to go back to it when you're facing a hard color choice. Like I said, I'll show you methods later on. And pick color in an effective way to make a real good artwork. Because the most common way of picking color is called the color harmonies. I think I have, yeah, it's here. There we go. The color harmonies, we'll take a look at this later, but it's really when you see all those diagrams, you're just and it seems like a lot of information, you don't really know what to do with it. Maybe you find it useful, but honestly I have a hard time going back to it when I work on an illustration, because usually all my characters already have a specific color scheme. Sorry, I'm gonna butcher this word all along the workshop. Scheme. So yes, it's useful to know about it, but don't let it rule your life. And that's about, yeah, your color. Everything I'm gonna talk about is in this workshop. Don't let it rule your life. It's a bit counterproductive, but I just want to stress that not stress out about this. Color are very, very subjective and highly personal, so it's hard to teach this subject since there's no one way to suit everyone. People who hate green will have a hard time finding your artwork pleasant to look at if you're using a lot of green in it. But it just comes down to personal preference. So yes, don't stress out. Those are useful tools at the beginning, but they're just that, tools. So you've got your usual color wheel, and the debate between red, blue, yellow versus cyan, magenta, yellow has been like set up with the Gurney. Where is my Gurney? There we go. The Gurney color wheel. This is, I don't know where the terms come from, but it's basically mixing both color wheel. I really like this one because it has the more saturated grayish color in the middle rather than the other one that only has the bright one. So Gurney, no, it's not a nightmarish art monster. It's just your friendly color wheel next door. Like I said, it's basically the Switzerland of color wheel, where artists stay neutral about what system to use and just blend them together. So yeah, go Switzerland. What does it change for us? Nothing. I just wanted to mention it because yeah, this one is really, really useful because you can basically use it to create your artwork. There's a neat technique that I'm going to show you later how to use this. But yeah, it doesn't really change anything. I just think it's funny, and you can remember this as the Gurney. It's not really Gurney, but you can remember. Wait, is my there? You can remember it as Gurney because it's "You Ride My Bus, Cousin Gus," and I think it's just funny. And like I said, it's good because there's a present of desaturated color at the center, which will come in handy later on. Alright, do you have questions until now? I'm gonna drink my tea waiting for questions. Okay. Well, this is good. Perfect. So, alright. Now that we knocked off the boring terminology, let's talk color choice. First, why your color choice can sometimes be made. Because I know that when you first open the magical world of digital drawing, you have a bazillion colors at your disposal. And heck, you want to use all those bright, vibrant colors. And yes, that's not a good idea because you end up with this. The Hawaiian shirt. I watched a video about color theory, and someone mentioned his art teacher called it like that, and it just stuck with me because it's a brilliant image, and you can see why it's not working. Those are nice colors. I mean, taking it separately, it's nice colors, but all together, it's just assaulting your eyeballs, and all those colors are too bright, too strong. They're screaming at each other, wanting the attention of the viewer, and it's tiring to look at. If you stare at it too long, you can feel irritated, maybe. So yeah, each of these colors have an impact on their own, and they lose that impact because of the equally bright colors around. So we'll see later how to create an impactful yet harmonious artwork later. And also I have a technique to make those colors stop yelling at each other, but really that's the trap of this magical color picker, where you have like all possible colors at your you can use all possible colors, so you just pick random things and you end up with the Hawaiian shirt. One thing you need to remember about color and color picking is that colors are relative to each other, which means that the color that's surrounding another color can influence the color itself. Like this is, I swear that the two, if I can, oopsie, no, that's not what I wanted to do. If I take the, you can see they are the exact same color, but placed in a different surrounding color, they're not the same anymore. They don't look the same. That's what I mean. So it's not because you pick a color in your color picker or on your color wheel that it's going to look like it on your artwork. So you're gonna have to try and see if the color works like as it is on your artwork. So yeah, I've already mentioned the color harmony. I'm just gonna bring back the diagrams because they're pretty yellow colors and it's nice just to look at. But that can be quite a mental struggle when you're trying to do like an illustration of an established character who has red hair and has to wear a pink uniform because of school and is portrayed in an autumn forest because that's where your story is happening. Okay, so first, if you're dealing with that kind of issue, maybe you have to rethink your illustration and character design. But if it's really what you want, we're gonna have to find a way to work around that issue. So, yes, color harmony are fancy terms people use to categorize color choices more artists do by instinct. So I'm not gonna spend much time on those. I put a link. There is already a link for a very useful video that presents most of the types of color choice: complementary, analogous, triadic, and it gives examples of artwork that uses those technique. And I think it's really nice to watch this video, to be aware of it, but I feel like it's not like, it's not fundamental, I mean, in my opinion. So how the heck do you pick your color? Let's say you have no idea what to do with your drawing. So first I would advise against that because I can only encourage you to think about color early in the design process, which means when you're sketching it, because that will help you later on. So one of the first technique I've seen is using yeah, that's not what I wanted to say. Let's go back to forget this bird. It's nice, but yeah. So about color picking, basic theory before the tips. Sorry, I skipped the part of my outline. So, like I said, try to plan your colors ahead. think about the purpose of your artwork. Does it have a certain goal, a message you want to convey? Remember that every color should have a reason to be present so that everything feels like it belongs together. Painting a scene or painting a character design will be a little different because for a scene, mood and emotion will be more important, so you're gonna have to focus on using the colors to create a mood. Keep in mind the hierarchy of importance in your artwork. Think about where you want to draw the eyes of the viewer, what's important in your artwork, what do people need to see on it, and what story you want to tell, so that you can put your colors and arrange them to really draw the eyes of the viewer. Also, think about keeping it harmonious and contrasting enough to make it interesting to look at. If it's too flat, it's going to be boring. If it's too contrasting, it's going to be too much things to look at. So yeah, provide a place of visual rest. I'm going to talk about that later. But really, you need a place on your artwork where people can rest their eyes in. Like, there's not too much going on, so it can put emphasis on the other more important part of the artwork. I know it's hard to do everything at the same time, but yeah, here's some technique I found watching various videos, reading books, and the like. So the first one, you already had a snippet of it. It's the one technique that I found really nice if you have no idea what color to use. So you take an existing picture. Try to the original was way larger with lots more green, so I narrowed it down to just the bird, because it's advice to take a picture of nature or natural objects or animal, obviously. So the thing is, you're gonna use a filter and end up with something like this. So the filter I use, is, I'm sorry, my Photoshop is in French. I didn't find a way to put it in English, but it's got a filter gallery, I guess it's called in English, and I used the how is it called? The thing that you see on in churches. Oh crap! I knew the word. What is it called? Anyway, this one. And you end up with colors like this. Mosaic, yeah, no, it's the glass work in churches, but anyway. Stained glass. There we go, stained glass. Thanks. I was thinking, we thought about it at the same time. That's I remember it when you posted it. Anyway, yeah. So the color choice is harmonious because it comes from nature. So yeah, pick your color. You can see that greens are more present, such as grayish black, and you can use. So you know that those colors are gonna be more present, and you're gonna use the purple to create accent and contrast. Yeah, it didn't get any of your yellow. You can play around with I'm just gonna do another test. Where are there? You can play around with the setting. With the size. There you go. There it picked the yellow. There, for example, but you have more colors, so I think it's better to have like a reduced color palette like on the right. But yeah, use the stronger colors sparingly to create a good balance and contrast. So that's one way, and I would advise you to try this. I never tried it, to be honest, but this is something I want to do in the future because it's a nice way to pick colors. All right. You can also, if like I said, you're working on a scene, you can pick your color according on the mood of the scene you're painting. I know I already used this example in my mise en scène workshop, I think, but it's a really good one. The name of the artist is here, artstation.com at Agsoina. I don't know how you pronounce that, but really good example of how you can use colors to create a mood. So bright, saturated color will create a joyous, cheerful scene, while the saturated colors, washed out tones are gonna be more sad, and light pastels for peaceful atmosphere, something more reddish for passion. And like this one, the placement of the color, bright one here in the center to illustrate the hope, and darker around to illustrate the state of like despair at the beginning, and more blue, purple, red, bright pink for magic, because that's what we get. We associate with magic, while the greenish, thick greenish for fear. So yeah, this I love this example. Like, I wish I had created this because it's brilliant. It's just brilliant. All right, next tip is the funnel. Oops, where is my mouse? I have two screens, and so I just want to make sure. Yeah, so it's the funnel method. So basically, you're gonna draw a martini glass. It's a technique presented by Brookes, Eggleston. The video is linked in the description box. We can either the funnel, either a martini glass. I think I mentioned it in the mise en scène workout. And so the idea is to create this shape, to select your colors, working with one. So you're gonna have your complementary color. If we go back to the color harmony, the complementary color plus analogous colors. So you try to use a ratio of 75%. I should have written that somewhere. Wait a sec. You can use a ratio of, can I have my brush? Thanks. 75% of this one and 25% of this one, to bring out the contrast and or offer a place of visual rest. The saturated colors will work fine for the place of visual rest. So to make it more interesting, don't work only with the value, meaning you're decreasing the gray, but try to work toward others colors on the color wheel. Think about to tweak your hue as you go darker. You can move around. Try to think about the ambient light and how it might impact the color to like pick a warmer or a cooler version of your color. Like if it's you're going through something that is rather cool, try to bring your green toward the blue to make it cooler. Or if you're gonna go for something more warm, work toward the red. And obviously you can, I don't know if I can do that. Oops, it's gonna be fun. You can move this around to change the color you're picking. This is not, there we go, kind of. So yeah, this is one way that I found very useful. Brookes, Eggleston use it through color character design. So I think it works better for character design than for mood and illustration kind of scene work. So yeah, this was the funnel method. And my favorite one, and I swear it's not because it's inspired by Star Wars, but it's the Han Solo method, aka the Han Solo and the Rebel Alliance on the Millennium Falcon. Basically, it comes from a video by Mario Bucci. It's linked in the video in the description box below. But yeah, if you remember, so he what it did is that he transformed the color wheel into the Millennium Falcon. And if you remember the Hawaiian shirt, well, what happens on board of the Millennium Falcon is that all the rebels on board, which are the bright colors, are yelling at each other. They're not communicating, so they need to be able to try to communicate. So he put Han Solo in the middle, has the dispatcher kind of. And so how to make them communicate, basically you bring down your value, your hue and your saturation towards Han Solo, who then relay the message toward the other rebel, the teal rebel. And as you pick your color, I'm gonna actually do that so you can see. I need a new layer. Let's see, there we go. So basically you have your orange rebel that is trying to communicate with your, let's say, I think this color goes well together, but anyway, your purple rebel. If you're doing an illustration with only those two shades, this is not gonna look good. This is gonna be the Hawaiian shirt. So what you're doing is that you're trying to bring messages to Han Solo. Sorry, I didn't put a picture of him in the middle, but to Han Solo, adding gray to your color, and then you have like a more harmonious color wheel, color choice, color scheme for your illustration. And I would advise to either get rid of this one or this one to have only one bright color, but you get the idea. And I really like this method, and I really encourage you to watch his video because it's really fun to watch, and he explains it way better than I. But yeah, like I said, it's just, yeah, Mario Bucci on YouTube. I even did a slide about it. But really, watch this video because it's great. All right. Next one is a bit more advanced technique. It's called the Gamut mapping. It's a cool way. Well, it's not really advanced because it's kind of hard to apply to traditional drawing, but it's a cool way to limit yourself to a certain palette of color. Where is it? So you have your color wheel, there we go, and with the gamut mask. So it's a method created by James Gurney, and I really highly, really highly encourage you to check his blog. I didn't have any links, but you type James Gurney on Google and you have it, and check his book that is linked in the video description box, Color and Lines, because he's like the boss on the subject. So basically, yes, you have your color wheel, you pick a shape, it can be whatever. It usually works with triangle because it's simpler, I guess, but you can pick whatever shape you want. I have a neat Photoshop file, which is linked below, and I can make a demonstration later if you want. But basically, yeah, you pick your shape, you place it on your color wheel, and you're just good to go. Pick your color inside it in paint. So yeah, it's a group of color that you allowed, quotation mark, to use on a painting. It's mostly used in traditional art to mix color in the physical palettes with, physical paints. But what you can keep in mind is that the corner basically are your primary colors, and as you move along those edges, you have secondary colors, and toward the middle you go to subjective neutral. So using this kind of triangle, actually I'm gonna, because I cannot move the mask, but using a triangle like this is gonna limit your, reduce the saturation of your overall artwork, since your secondary color there are gonna be more saturated, less saturated, sorry. But if you move the mask around, you can have brighter colors. So yeah, I think it's a really good way to catch the overall mood of your artwork at a glance, and it allows you to exclude a lot of colors. So I recommend you look into this method more closely. We can even take the quick, I don't know, we don't really have time, but anyway, we can take a quick look at the, I don't know where it is. There. See this one. This is the Photoshop file I linked below. So you have the mask, and basically what you're doing. So this one is gonna be the complementary, and what you're doing is that you can turn the mask around. No, it doesn't work. Great. Well, you get the idea. You move your thingy around, and you have lots of shapes that you can use. Yes, do that, please. Oh, it's gonna move. No, it's not gonna move. But you have lots of shape you can use and move around on your artwork, on your color wheel to pick your colors. All right, not gonna spend too much time on this. Because it's not, yeah, we need to move on. So, last way of picking your colors is color meaning. Yes, please. Yeah, there we go. If you want to convey a particular message, it's good to think about what colors could or could not enhance your message. But here, my friends, you're on your own. Because color meaning can be a whole workshop. Not to mention people like to argue about what a color really means. Some say that red is this, and other no, red is not this. It's totally something different. So yes, I'm sweet. Skip me out of this conflict. Thank you very much. But I encourage you to do your research on the subject, to look at how a certain color has a certain impact on a person's mood. It's a whole topic on visual communication. It's really fascinating to see which brands use what color. Like, for example, you'll notice that a lot of food things use red. So yeah, do your research on this. And like I said, it could be a whole workshop on its own. So I'm not gonna spend too much time on this, like not at all. So this leads me to my final point, is do your research. Plan your artwork and research about the subject. Look at pictures that you find have the right atmosphere, study them, take what you learn from it, do color composition that are called color comp or color break. That's all the same way to say that you do a crappy color study of your drawing. That's similar to a thumbnail. Basically, you place blotches of colors to make sure that everything is harmonious yet contrasting enough, while providing a place of visual rest to draw the eyes to what is most important. That's a lot. You won't get it right the first time, and now you all know what is coming, but here we go, pep talk for you all. It's alright to fail, try, experiment, have fun with colors. This is the beauty of digital art, is that you don't risk wasting materials. So try, fail. Remember that failure is never a failure, it's always a lesson. So try, learn, repeat. You can easily adjust saturation and hue in Photoshop or any other drawing software to get totally different colors just by toggling that little toggle thingy, and boom, magic. So I'm gonna show you that in the demonstration just in a few minutes. So yeah, keep in mind that everything I told you, but feel free to break those rules and try to find what works for you. So that was the technical parts. I don't know if you have question until then. I'm gonna go look up for my other file while waiting for questions. Actually, I'm gonna do that like this because it's gonna be easier. Let me use this one. All right. So, more fun part, shading or rendering, which is basically the same. I prefer the term rendering. Why? Because if you remember properly, hopefully, the beginning of the workshop, I mentioned that adding black to a hue created shades. So it implies that to shade, aka give depth and impression of realism to an artwork, you're gonna have to use black, which is not entirely wrong, but still it's not the best idea. So shading means adding shadows, but you also need to add lights. So because those are important. So shading is yeah, it's a bit like, it's just terms, I know, but rendering is just a more fancier and more appropriate term for shading. Anywho, why is it generally a bad idea to use black and white to shade and highlight an artwork? So my dummy for this test is gonna be Sophia. I'm sad Mike is not here to do the promotion of his book, but anyway, you probably already saw this. I don't know. It's for the prompt in the server based on his story. So, using black and white is gonna make your artwork look flat. So where is this? This is the green. Oh, I didn't have. Okay, so it's time to add a new layer. So I'm gonna use her there we go. I'm gonna use her dress to show you how to do this. And where are the highlights? There we go. I'm gonna use her dress because it's the biggest part and is the easiest way. So I'm using a brush like this, which is a hairbrush kind of brush. Oh yeah, that's what I needed to do. I'm sorry. It's with duplicate there. Okay. So actually in this layer I already have it's gonna be easier that way. I already have the shadow. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna color this shadow in black, and you're gonna see how it makes everything looks flat. Yeah, Photoshop, there we go. And duplicate this one. But yeah, it's basically less interesting. It's not as good as other technique. So it makes the artwork look kind of flat, and it washes out the original color. So it will chill the original color, which will become a real problem when you work with warm hue. So this is kind of a cool illustration. So it doesn't really illustrate it, but it's if you work with a warm hue and you want a warm effect like the flame of a candle, it's not gonna work as well as the usual. And there is the and look, the transparency. I'm gonna use white for the highlights now, and you can see that it really chills down the picture. and now it looks kind of flat. More flat, at least. So, how to fix it? Yeah, it really kills the vibrancy of it. So, how to fix it? So, some techniques for highlights, you can use a slightly more saturated version of the color and ease it up to a white, which means, if I pick the green here, what you're gonna do is go up and slightly to the white and use this for highlights. I don't really work with lighter color of the color for highlights. I do this for the shadows where I use darker, I use several layers. You can see those here. I'm gonna go back. I have lots of layers, I know. But basically what I do is that I have my flats here. Well, I have the highlights still on, so I'm gonna turn them on. Oopsie, oops, sorry. That was not what I want to do. Yeah, there we go. So I have my flats here and here. And what I do is usually I add some, no, not this one, no, neither. Okay, I didn't do this for this one. Okay. I have a darker shade of the color, and then I do yeah, that's it. I do the shading itself to give more depth. So that's what I do for shading. You can do it for highlight too, to give more depth to your color, but it's gonna get really complicated. So what I do, flats, a layer with a darker shade of the color, and then a layer with the shading itself. What I did here is using the multiply mode, which is usually here in the menu. It's called produit in French, but it's multiply in English. And what it's gonna do is that it's gonna darken your. I'm using those shades to shade, those hue to shade, and which is gonna the multiply mode is gonna. It's a bit tricky at first, but it's gonna darken those colors into yeah, it's gonna make them darker. It's a little tricky at first, this multiply mode, to get used to, but once you get it, it's pretty handy. And always lower the opacity of your layer with the multiply layer. You can work with colors. So this is the result with multiply layer, and this is the result with the more bluish color that is not set on multiply. So I think it works too. It's just different results. Maybe I can put it there. That's just the result with the more blue, purple. Yeah, the multiply mode is gonna tone the saturate. Make it more less saturated. Let me start again. The multiply mode is gonna make the color less saturated. So shadows will become more interesting if you work with complementary colors. It's something widely accepted that a warm light source will cast a cool shadow. So use cold tones to shade a warmly lit artwork, and cool colors to shade warm colors to shade a cool artwork. You get it. Warm light equals cool shadows. Cool light equals warm shadows. There we go. And so yeah, you can work like this. You see me use shadows and white for the highlights, black and white for the shadows and highlights, and yeah, we can try to change the colors for the color source from warm to cool if we want to. That would mean I have to pick like cool blue for the highlight. Okay. Oops. Oh, whoa. That was brutal there. And for the, now I'm gonna pick a warmer shade. Yeah. See, not dark enough. There. So yeah, it changes the artwork a little. So now it's basically how the difference between the different way of shading. So how do I do it? I'm just quickly gonna break it down on my own characters. So what I have on this file is just the flats. If I took out the line art, you have the flats. And so for example, I have removed the skin there. All colors are in different layers. This is how I work. I know people like to have all their colors in one single layer and then use the select tool to shade, but there is no right or wrong. This is my method. I don't mind the billions layers like you saw in the Sophia illustration. Like I have lots of layers. I don't mind it. I rather have this than using the select tool, because the select tool is just, yeah, for me it's just too complicated. I don't like it, so I prefer to have like several layers. So I'm gonna work on her shirt and pants because it's the larger area. So what I do is create a new layer, and I use the clipping mask. So what it does is that if you draw, it's only coloring what is colored on the layer below. I use my neat airbrush brush. I'm using a rather large brush to have like a nice I don't know how it says, but scattering thing. And what I do is I pick the color and I go down to the yeah, like slightly darker color, and I do shades like this. And then it's about knowing where your light source is from. So let's say it comes from here. Okay, need a new layer. Let's say the light source comes from here, but I'm really bad at that. I need to work on, and it comes down to what you see and really a lot of observation. So yeah, I first start with the darkening the shaded area, and then I do another layer on top of it that I do a clipping mask to, and then I use this one, I put it on multiply mode, and I use like either shades of actually I'm gonna go with the warm shade this time to see how it works. Slightly. And this gives the the shadow itself. So yeah, it's really not the best, but you get the idea. And once you get that, you lower the opacity slightly, so you don't have like this brutal contrast. So yeah, this is how I do it. For now, maybe my technique will change. I don't know, but for now, it's how I roll. So yeah, and like I told you, I wanted to show you how to change the color easily. So what you select your layer, you make sure, no, it's okay, you go to image, it's setting, I think, I'm not sure, and you're picking hue saturation, it's called in English, and you, oopsie, it's not working, there we go. So you got this neat little thingy that appears, and you can choose to change either the global colors, and if you have more colors on your layer, you can choose to change only certain colors like red, yellow, green, cyan, I don't know how you pronounce this, blue, and magenta. But since I'm working with something where I'm going to try to change it into, yeah, there we go. And it's really, really saturated, so you can desaturated, so you can push the saturation a little, make it more light or dark. Ooh, this is look weird. Or yeah, and change the really you can pick. Really it's really nice because you can do whatever you want with this. So you can have like the rainbow. Oh yeah, I love this too. I really love this too. But let's settle for this blue because it's not too eyeball assaulting. And I'm gonna bring down the. Actually, no, I'm gonna keep it that way. Maybe there. It's a bit too bright. It's not a good color choice, but you get the idea of how to change the color of your flats. That's why I like to work with different layers for each color, is that if I find that I don't like a color, I can easily change it without changing the colors around. It works the same with when you lock the transparent pixel, I think it's called, the thing that I did here, and you want to change the color, you can use the brush to change the color, and it works too. Oh my gosh, this is horrendous. Don't do that. This is the perfect example of what not to do with color picking. But yeah, I don't know if you have questions. If you want me to show you some more things. As you shade, I'm waiting for your question if you have, but just a quick note. As you shade, remember that highly glossy material like metal will have a sharp edged highlight. So instead of using your like, let's say I'm highlighting the pants. If she were wearing a metal pants, I wouldn't do like this soft. I would do this soft highlight, but I also would do a less soft highlight with a lighter color and a sharper. I'm gonna use them in. But if you do, oh, it's not working. Gonna be quiet, straight white. Why is it? Oh, that's why. There we go. But if you do something like this, it's gonna be more, it's not the best example, but it's gonna be more sharp, if you get the idea. And yeah, people sometimes use the, that's a shame because I didn't do it on, what did I do? Oh yeah, okay, there. What? Okay. If you want to do the highlights, nope, sorry, there we go. Some people for the highlight, let's say I have a warm source of color, I'm using this. There. Some people like to use the layer mode add, I think it's called, and it's basically, where is it? There, I think it's this one, not sure. Yeah, no, it's not this one. Or is it this one? No, it's not. Well, whatever. You can play around with your layers and to find what works nice to there. I think this is this one. To find what works. But honestly, I like multiply mode to an extent because it messes with the color you're picking in the color picker, so you don't really know what you're gonna end up with. So I do this only with purples and blues. I usually do a color swatch, so I'm gonna go with, let's say I'm gonna pick this blue and I do a color swatch of it, and then I take the purple and I do a color swatch. So I can use the pure color, and I always picking the same to use on my multiply layer. So yeah, that's basically everything I had to tell you. I could go on and on for hours on how I work and how I shade, and if you want to, yeah, work on this one has already been, if you want to see the final piece, it's here. I already colored it with the background and everything, so this is like a more advanced state of it. So yeah, this is basically it. So I guess you don't have questions, so I'm gonna end this workshop here. I hope I was the demonstration was clear enough. If there's something you didn't get, it's your last chance now. But other than that, I'm gonna end the workshop. So thank you for coming, and like I highly suggest you check the links in the description box because there's a lot of useful things, and the channel will be here if you have more questions. I'm gonna try to do PDF file with the slides, so you have the everything I talked about during the workshop, the technical terms, like hues, saturation, and yada yada. So yeah, thanks for joining, and I'll see you in the server. Bye!